I need to excuse me. I want to send a message for in 30 seconds for Algerian people, and it will be in Arabic, and then the time is used. So, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن السعادة والحبور والفخر كلمات لا تكفي لتصف شعوري وأنا أقابل إخوة لي من الجزائر الحبيب. كيف لا وقد اعتدنا في الشام أن نصف الجزائر بأنه الحالة السورية للمغرب العربي. فعربكم عربنا وأمازيغكم كردنا وما الجزائر من دمشق ببعيد وما حلب وغهران إلا زهرتان من دوحة الأندلس. ووجهنا عبر التاريخ بنفس الاحتلال. فعبدكم للقادر ثوى في أرضنا فكان صلاحا لديننا. فكم سعدنا بكم وكم حزنتم لنا. وأرجو أن أكون ضيفا خفيفا عليكم مع صديقي توم. So it was a small message for Algerian people. It was in Arabic. So I will start, Yassine, with one question to Tom. In fact, I would like to ask him. Since we are talking about artificial intelligence in healthcare, in fact, if I go to the history, I can find that the intelligence and the healthcare, it was a matching together. In the history, you can find Abocrates. In Arab world, we have Ibn Sina, Ibn Nafis. All of them, they are philosophers. They are the real intelligence of the history, and they was part of them. They was doctors or the greatest physicians in the history. When we start the healthcare, the AI era, let's say, previously, I remember when we was discussing about previously in the, let's say, before 20 years or something, about the fuzzy logic and the expert system as something like it's artificial intelligence. But right now, starting from 1980, the expert system considers died, for example. Still, we are using it, but it's not intelligence anymore. Here is my question, in fact. How you can see the enhancement or the change of the intelligence or artificial intelligence term and identification in the history during the last 40 years, and where it will reach in the future somehow, before starting in the healthcare in the AI for healthcare. It's about AI itself. What is the intelligence will be?
Well, that's a great question. I just got to point out, I started learning data science techniques before it was all called data science. And one of my engineering professors that we both love control system design, he taught a course called fuzzy logic. I don't think we call it that anymore. But there's purists that try to define the boundaries of what AI is. And I think we got to be a little loose, not fast and loose, but loose with the terminology because it's still forming. Things are changing so much in the whole field of data science. And I had to chuckle as you were saying expert systems aren't considered AI anymore, because I'm currently developing a large app for my own company that depends heavily on an expert system. But inside that expert system, there's math machines and lookup machines and a mixture of all that coming together, because sometimes your needs require a certain accuracy that ML and other things that might be considered AI can't meet that accuracy yet. So we do what we have to do as data scientists. And I think it would be premature to rule out expert systems as being useful in any branch, because what they can do for us is create these hybrid systems where we bring in many math machines or many deep learning things or other elements, and it creates the expert system creates a hybrid structure of all these other things that we consider more sexy. But sometimes there's a mixture of very non-sexy or not so cool elements in our expert systems.
It will be kind of, let's say, complicated relationship. This makes exactly. So another question, please. It's when we are talking about the healthcare and part of the machine learning or the deep learning itself, it's the neural networks, artificial neural networks, and all of us we use just to have this kind of resampling that the artificial neural network, it comes from the mind structure or the brain structure somehow. Is this real, or it's just a kind of it's mathematical idea And to make it easier for the learners, we start with this sample. This is also another question. Most of the times I want clear answer about it, but I didn't get it from anyone. So I hope you can tell me this.
Well, in the philosophical realm of the engineering and data sciences, I think our philosophies pretty much overlap, but sometimes the overlap is not as strong. So I can give you my philosophy. I think the genius that we see in the whole AI and deep learning realm is there because we are copying what God's done. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
God's the master designer here, but when we look at the way we do neural networks, it's definitely a simplification of what's going on in the brain, which I love to study. When we look at image recognition, we could go on and on. When we consider what convolutional neural networks are doing, yes, our brains do that, but they do it so much better than AI type devices can do. However, we keep getting more clever. And I think we will continue to get more clever. In fact, what's really holding deep learning and AI back in many ways is hardware. And yet we have quantum computing on the horizon. And so, you know, some people may be thinking, what is Tom saying? I mean, some AI systems can do things better than us. Yes, but let's remember, they have to be trained by us, and they still are confined to those specific things they're programmed to do. So in the realm of trying to copy what we see in the brain or other body parts or other human functions, we're doing a good job of copying it, but it's not an exact copy. It's an overlap between the clever mathematicians that give us stuff to think about and what we see in nature. And I think that's great human brilliance, by the way. I hope that helps.
In fact, this is more than I expect. It's nice.
Oh,
You know?
good.
You speak my mind, by the way. So this is why.
Oh,
Okay.
nice. Kindred
Now,
spirits.
okay. So if you please, I can start the presentation about today's
Y-
session, Yasin.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Whenever you're
I,
ready.
okay. I will share my screen to start
Yeah.
presentation. I hope it will be fast. It will not be long one. Um, all of my presentations start with my kids. So this is my kids. That's forgive me for that. Okay, we are talking about AI in healthcare, and when we are talking about AI in healthcare, in fact, we have to be sure uh, and that the healthcare sector is not easy thing that we are able to penetrate. So we as a data scientist or engineers, deep learning engineers or machine learning engineers, AI specialists, we are trying to help. We are trying to find ourselves in somewhere. And in healthcare, in fact, because it's dealing with the health of the people, with the life and death, with very critical and sensitive part of our life. So the trust is the most important problem that we are finding. So our task, in fact, to create this trust with the community, with the healthcare community. So we will find right now some use cases telling us how we can build this trust. And also in this presentation, I'm not going to focus only on medicine. That means only about diagnosis of the medicine or finding new drugs. No, the healthcare sector is wide. So we can find some use cases is meeting the healthcare and the insurance part. Some use cases meeting the healthcare and the hospital management part. So I'm going to just explain what's going on in the world according to our community in deep learning.ai and outside deep learning.ai, just to explain exactly where are we right now. So I will start just in the general categorization of the AI in healthcare. In fact, we can find that we have three main categorization categories. That the first one is the AI in medical diagnosis. That means using NLP models or convolutional neural networks, we can, or image processing, let's say, we can diagnose the disease for one patient or another according to this information automatically without it will be helping for the physician, for example. The second part, which is I found it very important in the future, and right now, according to the COVID pandemic, yes, the people start understanding that we have to take care about this. It's a medical prognosis. And in fact, the great example about medical prognosis, it's the, the, the death rate and the survival rate that can be calculated or expected or predicted for one patient. And also this one with collaborative information from all over the community, you can find which kind of information that we have in our system. The third part, it will be in medical treatment. That means when you are going to evaluate one drug or one procedure for the set of patients, and when we are going to create this control group and the diagnostic, the treatment group, how we can find how the AI can help in predicting some missing information on these groups to just evaluate that the treatment in a better way. Also, there is one another example. In fact, it's very sexy, let's say, according to Tom terminology. In fact, it's AI in drug discovery and drug enhancement. And in fact, this one, it's still for me, it's black box. That's why I telling you it's very sexy, because I want to penetrate that place, but still I'm not able to go there until now. So in fact, when we are talking about the real world value, I'm looking for something else from my point of view. And if, I think this is shared vision, maybe. I'm looking to have to reduce the healthcare cost and to raise the performance and make the performance time better. And this, so we are more than matching the way that the doctors or the physician working and find automatical way to do it, we have to find real value. So if we are able to reduce the healthcare cost and reduce the performance drive, then we are adding value to the healthcare sector. The other way is to make the revenue cycle faster. And in fact, this is also very, very critical when we are talking about private hospitals or private health group. This is really critical. Why? Because um, sorry. For the question, just I want to mention one thing. If we have any question, we can make it after the presentation, or I prefer not to write the question. You can ask me immediately, because hearing is better than reading in this situation. So to make the revenue cycle faster, also it's very important when we are talking about private hospitals. At the end, the healthcare workers, they are employees or they are investors, and they need to get their money at the end. So if there is a real fast and efficient revenue cycle, then they are able to go and they are able to continue work. And the third target, it will be to enhance the quality of healthcare work. Right now, the presentation will be focused on these three. I will go through some use cases about these three targets that I'm trying to meet, for example. And I found that this is the real value right now in the world for our, let's say, our research or our products. One of the examples when we are talking about reducing the healthcare cost, it was what's performed by Landing AI. It's one of the companies under deep learning.ai. They just create a product using the street cameras. They want to, let's say, maintain the social distancing during the COVID pandemic. And in fact, it's good as emergency solution, because it will help the people and notify them that you have to, yes, you have to stay safe. But this is, at the end, this is the pandemic right now, what's happened during the last 4 or 5 months. In fact, this is not a normal way, not normalized way to deal with any disease. The world cannot live like this. We cannot continue like this. So at the end, and even if the infection, it wasn't happen in this way, for example, if it's happened in another way, this solution also, it's not helping us. It's good as emergency solution, but it's not helping us to normalize the dealing with the disease. So each disease or each pandemic, it will be easy if we normalize the dealing with it. We find a solution to keep it as a normal. We have real clear protocol in each and every step of dealing with this disease. It's normal. We know it. All of the people know it, and we are able to deal with it. So to do that, was one of the ideas, which is in fact detecting the COVID infection using the radiography imaging. And this is it was, there is history for this starting from 2015 or 2016. There is some researchers was suggesting to use the X-ray and the CT scan for the lung or chest X-ray or chest CT scan to detect the pneumonia, the bacterial pneumonia, which is, or even not the bacteria, even the viral pneumonia, but not the COVID because it wasn't there at that time. So starting from that study, there is one suggestion appeared that to use the CT scan to isolate the COVID infection from the other type of pneumonia that might appear. Why they suggest this? Because of three main reasons. The first one is the cost. The PCR cost, which is used right now around the world, it's very high. So the CT scan, even it's cost a lot, but at the end it's less than the PCR. And also it's the time of the diagnosis. Using the PCR right now, the fastest way to get the result, it will be 24 hours. And according to the waiting time, waiting lane, we are able to face 3 or 4 days even to get the result. With the CT scan, we can get it if we have a real robust product using this. We can get it within seconds. And the other way it was to use the X-ray. And this is, in fact, it's more efficient way because the X-ray, it's more popular. You have a lot of labs for X-ray around the world, and it's cheap technology. So if we are able to use the X-ray to detect pneumonia, it will be great. I'm not going to go on the details for this. One of the trial that appeared, it was in our company, AI Hat in Dubai, and we name it COVID AI. It was with partnership with one company in India, Golden Bird. And the result, I'm not going to speak about the process because already I mentioned it previously in previous events. We use the ResNet 50 network, and here maybe Tom can add his point. Is it deep enough for this task or not? And at the end, we reach to the accuracy, according to the data set that we use, to the accuracy of 98%. But to be honest, this is not enough. Why? This is not enough because we use a public data set from collected from around the world, and it was coming from Canada because the first study that I read about it, it was from University of Waterloo by Linda Wang, and the results there, it was good, but they was suggesting another type, which is a new structure, new CNN structure. They name it COVIDNet. In fact, I found ResNet, it's better in the performance, according to my trial. But why it's not enough? Because the data set, it wasn't balanced. And then we play all the, let's say, the data science games or play to just to balance the data and get the result in the correct way. Here, this number is very important because we use 650 X-ray image for COVID and 8,000 for non-COVID. So in fact, a lot of data augmentation appeared, a lot of resampling happened until we create, sorry, until we create a balanced data set. Also, there is a lot of, just to go in correct way, um, there is a lot of research appeared using the CT scan. And the CT scan, in fact, as a result, maybe it's more promising because it's more accurate radiography method. But at the end, why we go to the X-ray? Because we were thinking about the cost, about having multiple testing centers. So we want to find a way to, let's say, move or change any X-ray machine into diagnostic machine. And this is also right now, I expect to receive some question about the regulators and how to get the approval for this. We're still in the process. We didn't finish from that. Now, the other method for the diagnostic models, it's about the chatbots. And there is around the world, there is a lot of examples right now running. One of them is One Remission. Chatbots, they want to create a diagnostic method using just like how you are going to the doctor and tell him your story. And according to that, he will suggest some actions to be more specific about the disease that you have. The same method, but for they are again back to the Tom answer. We are trying to match what's the gods did, but at the end we are not enough, or not good enough until now. So they are trying to match this method, telling the user the patient story, and get some kind of diagnosis, but in specific diseases only. So for one remission, they are focusing on the cancer uh, patients. So they are fighting against the cancer, and they need a lot of remarks or a lot of suggestion, a lot of advices according to the kind of chat, according to the patient story. The chatbot will suggest some action for them to help them. Maybe one day it will suggest, okay, you have to go to the hospital right now, to the emergency room. But okay, it's specifically for the cancer. The other example I want to mention, it's the Uber, and the Uber, in fact, it's very funny. Using the chatbot just to enhance the emotional health of the patient. That means it's not the patient, for anybody they can use it. So at the end, if you are feeling bad or any kind of negative emotion you have, you can use this application, and hopefully you will be good. There is another two examples, but the most important one maybe we have to speak about it is the Babylon Health, because the company itself right now it's about 2 billion value, and it's the most, according to my knowledge, it's the most robust one, and it's dealing with multiple diseases. Um, right now, this is some example about the diagnosis and how to deal to make that, let's say, the healthcare, the diagnosis faster, how to make the service provided faster using some automated method. If we go to the revenue cycle, we have to think about the health insurance processes and the hospital management processes, and what AI are able to provide there. In fact, in the presentation itself, there is a lot of how the healthcare or the electronic medical record are presented. I'm not going to mention it right now. I will share the presentation with you all, no shit about that, so you can get this information. But I want to mention small words about the medical coding, because this is the, let's say, the portal to understand the medical coding is the portal to deal with any electronic medical record, especially for insurance reasons. So most of the electronic medical records, there is a lot of standard used around the world, but the most popular one, let's say, especially in the Middle East, it's the ICD. ICD is developed by the World Health Authority, the World Health Organization, sorry, and it's using as diagnostics, just to code the diagnosis for the patient. And for sure, right now, it's ICD-10, the version 10 is there. I didn't that did it, doesn't mean that there is version 1, but right now it's the version 10. Okay, and it's used widely in the Middle East. I think also in USA. Tom can help us with this information if he has good information about it. And also for the procedures or the activities, the medical activities that performed by the physicians or by the healthcare provider, they are using the CBT coding. The CBT coding, it's used just not for the disease, it's used for the procedure. So at the end, the patient, when he comes to the hospital, we come with one frame that tell us this is three codes explaining what is the disease that he has, and this four codes explaining what kind of procedure is performed. Also, there is to deal with a real electronic medical record or health record. There is another method, which is SNOMED CT. SNOMED CT is also procedural, but it's explaining the activities not as let's say as treatment activity. It's explain it as daily activities somehow. So it's also another kind of coding, but it's for activities. Um, to, to create real medical record, you need also the denial codes when the insurance company reject to pay. So they have to code the rejection reason, and also the drugs and medication allowed to be used in this state or in this place, and also the facilities, the hospitals. And so if we have all of this coded, then we have to think about how AI models will collect the information from these standards, from these medical records, not from, let's say, reports from doctor, from physician, or from radiologist. So according to that, it will be easier. But to do that, we have to find the correct knowledge, the needed knowledge, or the correct person to help us to collect information from the medical records. If we have this, we are able to create nice things. I'm going to explain some examples about the hospital management, how the AI are able to help. One company here in UAE, in Abu Dhabi, the name of the company is SAAL.ai. They create models just to predict if the patient is going to be appear according to the appointment he booked or not. So each patient, before going to the normal visit to the, if it's not emergency case, he will book a time slot for his visit. So this model will tell the hospital that, okay, this patient, he booked the time slot, but 99% or 95%, he will not appear. So according to that, the hospital will take the risk and book the same time slot for the same physician for another patient. And at the end, if some problem appeared and both of the patient appeared, there is, okay, they are able to solve it. But what is the reason for this? They will raise the capacity of the hospital. That again, we back to the revenue cycle. Revenue cycle, it will be more and it will be faster. Another example, it's coming from Ignacio Martinez Soriano. He's a professor in University of Murcia, assistant professor, and he's also a mentor for AI for healthcare for medicine specialization on Coursera. So he's my colleague, in fact, and he's working on Murcia General Hospital. During the pandemic of COVID, he creates a model that predicts when the hospital it will be full and when there is one bed, for example, free to receive one more patient, and when 10 beds it will be free according to the data that he has. In fact, when we are right now, let's say, dealing with this, we can find, okay, this is maybe it's not important. But when we found the situation in Spain, especially in Spain and Italy, and also in Saudi Arabia right now, for example, and in USA also, I I think this is important. I think this model is really important. And it's small model, somehow it's small model, but it meets real needs in the real world that, okay, I need somebody to tell me if tomorrow I'm able to accept this patient or not. So I think this is really good model. And also it was one of the models that we created in our company. It's the diviner. And the diviner is dealing with the insurance case. I told you previously during that presentation that the patient visit, it's documented as a set of codes, set of disease codes, and set of procedures codes. All of this information together is going to the insurance company for the payment at the end. And the insurance company, they are either accept to pay or they will reject according to some reason, according to the policy, and sometimes for no reason, maybe this is something related to the insurance. Okay, so our model, it was focusing on this, that we want to tell the doctor, the physician, that your claim are going to be rejected before he submits the claim and before he is closing the visit itself. So according to that, he may add more effort to his documentation and to the patient treatment until he meets the accepted healthcare level by the insurance company. Some numbers, it will tell us the real value of this. The average rejection, um, the average rejection of healthcare claims, it's 20% here in UAE. That means if we send 100 dirham, 20 dirham is accepted, or 20 USD, it's accepted to be rejected. And in the pharmacy here in UAE also, and I think in a lot of other countries, the profit or the benefit limit, it's also about 20%. So at the end, maybe the pharmacist or the pharmacy will gain nothing if they didn't manage their claim in the correct way. And the rejection can be for two reasons, either medical rejection or managerial rejection. The managerial rejection, we are not going to focus on it. Our model, it was focusing on the medical rejection, just like drug to drug interaction, or use, or for example, no medical necessity for this procedure or something. Also, again, we build it according to the standards used in Abu Dhabi Health Authority, and it's the same that used in Dubai Health Authority, and also in other countries in GCC. I'm not going to explain all of these charts right now because I want to keep time for the discussion. But at the end, we ran three versions of this model. The first one, the accuracy, it was around 89%. And then when we use, it was performed by one company called Red Kite. It's in Armenia, and they are great also experts. And when we use the RNN, not this model, many to many RNN, but and it's bidirectional, but in different way, we reached to the 98% accuracy. And the data set, it was a huge data set. In fact, we are talking about 500,000 claims and about 1 million and 500,000 activity. So I think, yes, we can cover this. We can name it a real product on this. Now, the third topic, it's not about the revenue cycle. We are talking about enhancing the quality of the healthcare worker. And also just some examples. It's about how to train the new joiners. For example, when you are talking about surgeons, um, Dr. Roger Smith, he suggests using AutoML, a new model that evaluate the surgical using the usage of the surgical robots. So in fact, they are used to evaluated using the expert surgeons. So he suggests one model to evaluate this. And in fact, this is very important. Right now, we are talking about the usage of surgical robots, but it's the same process or the same, let's say, mentality are able to be used, for example, to check the cleaning process in the hospital or sterilizing process in the hospital, sanitizing. All of this, if we are able to evaluate the trainers and evaluate the workers themselves using some videos, just like what Roger Smith do, also we are able to have better auditing and faster, let's say, correcting actions. This is also good ideas. It can be performed. And also he suggests this for the healthcare, but also it has maybe some usage and outside of the healthcare sector. And also there is a lot of trails right now. There's some systems using the mobile to enhance the lifestyle and to provide some healthcare, some healthy advices. We have a lot of examples. One of them is Dr. Janjit Wenselaar. He is from Netherlands. Also, he is our colleague in deep learning.ai community, and he provides some great ideas about the mobile phone, how to create mobile phone application using the machine learning to suggest even visiting the doctor or visiting the emergency room for the patient according to some collected information from the mobile phone itself. And also behind that, there is also the wearable devices that also might help here in this section. So all of this, it's right now we are talking about some products, some trials, some researches, all of this just to provide a real value to the AI in the healthcare sector. Why? Because suddenly, I think the world wake up and start to think twice about the healthcare. That okay, why we are spending a lot about the marketing? It's great, it's good, but we are spent more than expected. Why we are spent a lot about armies and military services and military actions, and we forget about the healthcare. So we want to tell the community that we are there to help and we need a lot of support. I know that there is a lot of governance behind this, but I hope this is also open the door for all the learners from School of AI in Algeria to see where to go in this, let's say, crowded research. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this presentation, Shoaib.
Thank you, Yasmin.
I think you've clarified many things, and if you don't mind, maybe we'll have some questions.
Sure.
Yeah. So please leave your questions in comment section here in Zoom.
I will try to read it, but Yasin, I perform because you see, I'm with the glasses, so I'm not seeing very
Yeah.
well. So if you are able to read for me, because maybe I will lose some focus here.
And
Yes, I really do.
while he's collecting those, could I ask one quick question for personal clarification?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I like the idea, these surgical robots where the surgeon is actually operating the robot. I think they're great. A family member of mine benefited from that greatly recently. But the idea, maybe I like the idea of using the scoring to help the surgeon know where the surgeon needs to improve his skills with the robot or her skills. But I was a little alarmed. I see AI as augmenting or being a partner to humanity, and to score it so that you know it's a thing to grade them actually scared me for the surgeons. I would rather think of it as something that's giving feedback to the surgeon of this is where you need to go improve your skills when you operate this robot. And I just wanted to share that and hear an answer if one is known.
I don't have clear answer. I have ideas. Let's say the first one is about the trust. When I start my presentation, I was talking about the trust, which is the most important point in when you are dealing with the healthcare. One of the major challenges is the trust with the physicians and the surgeons and all of these people, because they are the mega clever, smart people, according for the, let's say, the last 2,000 years. And right now we are telling them that, okay, you have this machine, it will grade you. Yes, this is a challenge. Yes, I agree on that.
Yeah.
But we have this, the model itself, how it's created. It's created from graded test videos that graded by clear experts, that human experts, mega experts. So according to that, um, by the way, the accuracy of the model itself, it was only 73%, but it was a trial, it was a research, it wasn't a product. And Roger Smith, he was happy with that because, okay, I show my point only. The idea here is not to grade the sorry, not to grade the trainers more than let him pass or get the certificate or not, more than just telling him that, okay, you are able to do better. This is the
That's
most
good.
important point. Yes, exactly. Because I think it's too early to let the machine grade the human. And I
Yes.
hope I will never see that day. But okay.
But to give feedback, to give help, to give
Exactly.
suggestions, awesome.
And in fact, the method itself, he usually he has 3 minutes videos, and to have this product ready or this research ready, he used 10 seconds, each 10 seconds as a training set. So during the presentation itself, it was very nice that you have the first 10 seconds that he tell that this trainer is beginner, but at the end he tell them, no, this is expert. So that means there is a method he created that tell the machine that, okay, maybe he start as a beginner, but because there is a larger vision. So yes, it was very nice job from Roger Smith. I agree on
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've got a question.
Yes,
It
tell me.
says, can you give us more details on the model used for diviner model, for the diviner? More details about the diviner model.
Okay. Now, Yassine, I will suggest just for this, well, I will tell you, there is 3 models created for this, version 1, version 2, and version 3. The version 1, it was a kind of CNN, convolutional neural networks, using a lot of embedding, and then concatenating with it with 2 fully connected machine, and then to get the result. The idea at that time, it was to have one rejection code for each claim. And as I told you, the claim is containing, let's say, a set of diseases and a set of procedures. So if we have 5 procedures or 10 procedures, and for inpatient, for example, the patient who spend a long time in the hospital, maybe we can find 100 procedures. All of this claim, it will come, according to the first model we create, it will come with one result, which is, okay, this is rejected. Okay, or this is approved. Then, and under the same idea, we create another way just to embed the diagnosis and the activities and the patient information, including the age and the gender and some other information, not personal information, but it's important for medical reasons. And here's nobody will tell me about the payers, because here It's important to know that if this pregnant is male or female. So it's not about the, okay. So all of this, it was embedded in one image, in one RGB image matrix. And then again, back to Inception version 1 neural networks, and get also one result, either it's approved or rejected. At that point, we get better result. We get something like 94%. But at the end, we discovered that no, the real need for this is to have the rejection on the activity level, not on the claim level. So on the activity level, that means each procedure that performed by the physicians or the healthcare service provider for case of inpatient, each procedure might be approved or rejected. So at the end, we are not going to tell that the full claim is approved or rejected. Maybe one procedure or two procedures that might be approved and the other might be rejected. So here we go to the RNN using bidirectional RNN. And in fact, it's like something similar to LSTM structure for each neuron. It was reading the full input and then starting to give the output with the same many to many, with the output for the full model. In this way, we reached to the 98% of accuracy. And in fact, it was great result because even there's some other processes appeared there, but this one, it was faster, especially when we are dealing with the huge claim, for example, that have 10 diagnoses and 30 procedures, and to deal with them, all of them, all together in one shot, it was very great for the hospital that we are dealing with. So this is in general. For more details, I can provide you some links to the previous events. I explain it in detail, the structure of this product.
Yes, yes, sure. Thanks.
Thanks.
So we've got another question. It says, many issues with AI can be hard to identify and fix for several reasons. How can we verify the quality of AI's decision making and identify potential biases?
I will ask Tom about it.
Oh, that was a great
Okay.
question, by the way. And I will try not to interject a million thoughts I'm having other than just what the question answered, but really it's just the classic stuff. You've got the data science modeling pipeline never really changes. We need to study our feature set. We need to get rid of collinearity. We need to be, hang on a minute. Can y'all keep it down in there? Sorry, I have a large family. They forget that I'm on a call.
Okay.
You need to make sure you clean your data. That in fact, I'd say that's our biggest challenge always. But once you do all the feature cleaning, feature engineering that's needed to be done, of course, if you're using some type of neural net, a lot of times the deep neural net can do the feature engineering for you, thank God, because the feature engineering can be quite complicated. But then you've got to be careful to hold some of your training back for validation. Or my favorite thing typically is K-folds, where you decide, okay, I'm going to work over this data. I'm going to train with a major fold, and I'm going to hold back some data on each fold to test with. Or sometimes you even do train, validation, test folds. That's where you're going through every bit of the data, using different parts to train, different parts to test. And you just, of course, are doing the good old tried and true method of making sure that your model generalizes well. But I would say in all of this, and this is going a little beyond the nature of the question, the thing that's going to hold back on any of these efforts is data cleanliness. I think the more people realize that data is the new gold and they treat it carefully when they're entering it and everything, the more data literacy we have for the sake of doing good data science, the more AI can help the world.
I have extension about this question also.
Of course.
Good.
A lot of question comes to us, Tom, related to how to evaluate your model and the output of your models when we are dealing with the healthcare. And there is a reason behind that, because of the nature of the machine learning processes. Most of the machine learning processes is the nature of black box. So at the end, we back to your question about the grading, and also even not the grading. Now, if, for example, for the COVID model, that COVID AI that we prepare, that's easy question that we receive: why this is a COVID and this is not COVID? Okay, why this is bacterial pneumonia, for example, and this is COVID? So, and we are unable to answer. We have just only statistical methods to evaluate our models. And here I found that there is something called explainable AI. So what is the real value of the explainable AI? This is my question right now. And also the explainable AI, it's changing the processes itself, or it's just a kind of creating more readable output? This is my question here.
So I have, in certain jobs that I was considering, I've run into situations where they warn me, hey, the client is only going to accept explainable AI. And well, what does that mean? That means you can explain why the model made the decision it did. Now, with deep neural networks, especially more complicated ones that include convolution or reinforced learning that's using as its model base some type of deep learning like those, good luck explaining it. I mean, it automatically figured out all the feature engineering. It had several layers. No, it's doing magic. You know, it's a big black box, and you could maybe break it down. I've seen people do a good job at that. But in the end, I really challenge that type of thinking. I think what's a smarter way to go about all of this is to remember that AI is a partner to humanity. It's like any other tool we create, but it's that upper echelon tool set. And so let's imagine we're doing diagnosis and prognosis. And so there's 3 human agents in the room, and let's say there's 2 AI agents in the room or more. And we can let one of those AI agents be one of those explainable models, and the other AI agent be one of those black box models. And the doctors can ask, the human agents can ask, well, can we appreciate why it's doing this diagnosis and prognosis? And for the explainable AI, you can look in deep if you're not agreeing with it and think, oh, I see, I hadn't thought of that. I see why it's doing that. Whereas with the black box one, you have to do a little more trust and say, you know what? We've seen many examples where AIs come up with solutions that humans wouldn't think of. We need to entertain if this is a possibility. And really, there's that upfront of training it against labeled data where we know the results, but there's that back end of saying, maybe the AI is showing us something that we can't process like it can. And let's remember it's our tool, but let's treat it as a partner, someone that's advising us. We've got to move forward carefully, just like if it was another doctor in the room, but understanding it's not a human agent. I hope that helps.
I think it's helped. And in fact, I remember just one speech for Gary Kasparov. He told us that you have to don't challenge the new techniques, work with it. So, in fact, this is a great suggestion from you and from him. Yassine, if there is another question.
Yes, yes. So the next question says, how to tell if a given problem can be solved with deep learning in general? Expect the availability of data size criteria.
In fact, let's say I used to work with any problem as a project of that. So when you have a project, you have problem statement, you are looking for possible suggestion to solve it. And since I'm coming from software development history, let's say, so one of the processes for me is the deep learning. But when we are talking about the deep learning, it's great to mention that it's not something that we have to solve it one shot. Maybe the problem itself, one problem, we have to break it down into another 3 or 4 problems. One problem, maybe we are able to use the deep learning for it, for example, as supervised learning method when I talk about deep learning. And the other, maybe it will follow the normal processes, for example, computer vision processes, which is right now, it's not part of the this architect, or some data mining, it can help. And especially when we are talking about this age, which is the age of the big data, we have the data everywhere. You have to be careful. You have to keep careful about the data that's needed and when really you are able to use the deep learning model on. I will give you one example about this. It's about the diviner. The diviner, we have in the world, we have multiple models that use to match each diagnosis to each procedure, that tell you that these two diagnoses, for example, or these two diagnoses and procedures, they are not matching well. So there is a rejection here. You cannot mention this code with this code, for example. Now, this is a good, it was working for a long time before the deep learning era, for example. But when we are talking about the deep learning era, we found that no, the doctor, when he makes his decision, is not taking the picture as one by one. He is drawing the full picture in front of him. He knows that the full diagnosis of the patient, and he suggested multiple procedures. And according to that, he is able to cover his rejection and tell the insurance company or tell the community, no, I need this procedure because one, two, three, another reason. So here it's clear that we need a kind of thinking that match again to the Tom answer, match the God what he did, that he create us, that able to match the multiple parts of the picture. So most probably, from my point of view, the deep learning problem, it's telling you that I'm deep learning problem, but you have to be clever enough to hear it. Okay, this is how I feel about it. So I hope this is the answer.
Yes, I think it's clear now. So the next question, if you don't mind, of course.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
On my side, sure.
yeah, sure. So do you think less developed countries should be investing in this AI-based solution in the healthcare sector? So is it accessible for these countries? Is this technology accessible for these countries?
I think
Oh,
I should ask Tom first about this.
I was just going to say, I really want to dive in on this one. AI is for humanity, but let's all data scientists out there, I'm making a call to you to be very gracious in the way you teach people outside of our data science field. We need data purity. We need data cleanliness to make AI serve you better. I think, we are collecting data in our current time period. We're collecting it and building it up at unbelievable rates. It's increasing exponentially how much data is available in the world, but that doesn't mean it's actionable. That doesn't mean that we can use all of it. And so the better we get at worldwide data literacy in all countries, the more AI can be used to serve humanity.
I have
It
one
doesn't
comment.
depend on whether it's a undeveloped country or not. It depends on if they get this data literacy and they're collecting valuable data. Sorry, going ahead.
Okay, I agree with you, Tom, 100%. And there is also 105% I want to add here. It's about the undeveloped countries. It's the responsibility of the citizens of these countries, and also for sure the governments of these countries. But when we are talking about the citizens, why are we talking about the citizens? For example, this radiography procedures that are around the world happen. For example, Linda Wang, as I told you, in Waterloo University in Canada, they are trying to use the X-ray. But if you go to Siemens, for example, the Siemens company, okay, they will perform to speak about the CT scan because they have these huge machines and they want to make it better and better. So what's our task? Because I'm coming from one of the undeveloped the countries, for example. What's what is our task to get the better of this field, which is for humanity, just like what Tom said, and to use it to enhance our healthcare sector, for example, when I talk about the healthcare. So it's our task. it's not the task of the science itself. It's the task of the worker in the science. We are able to go to these big countries and work for huge salaries and we'll be happy. And also we are able to be happy and get big salaries, but also think about where are we coming from. And we have the whole world helping us right now. What is the great thing about COVID? That we back to be one world again. Okay, so
Yeah.
we have the whole world helping us. So why we have to stuck on one place? So it's our task, in fact.
Yeah,
Very
thank
good.
you for your answer.
Agreed.
So we have another question about what do you think about the importance of privacy preserving concerning patients' data?
I will start with the answer of this, but for sure I'll forward it then to Tom because I think he has better idea about this. I was working for a hospital for 7 years. Okay, and it's one of the biggest hospital here in UAE. I'm not going to mention the name. Okay, so the privacy of the first, let's say the personal answer I have to add it. The privacy of the data itself, it's something, let's say, not solid concept. So I will tell you one example. There is one flower shop in front of the hospital that I was working there. I think that person who's on this flower shop, he's able to get the whole data of the hospital. But if you raise official letter that I need to make this research and I need the data, and it will be for sure, first it's encrypted data, the personal data of the patient, it will be not allowed, but I need the data to make this research, they will tell you no. So this is how the privacy is working, not around the world. Let's speak on the Middle East at least. But to be honest, as a patient, I was a patient one day, and all of us was a patient one day. As a patient, I don't want my data to be used in public. So here we have the governance part that was talking about. So we have the governance part to keep the research. It has to be done. We have a huge chance to make better world using these techniques. And okay, one day we will find that the value of this. For example, if let's imagine that if there's no patient accept to try the first vaccine appeared in the world, what will happen to the world? Okay, so here it's the time for the governments to create something that let's say be in the middle between the researchers or the data scientists and the physicians and the scientists, the biological scientists, and the patients themselves. So there is a lot of things appeared around the world. There is something solid has right now. But here's my question, Tom. Do you have any idea about what's happened for us on the healthcare sector, who's working in the healthcare sector? Because, for example, we are unable to register our products for the diagnosis as accepted diagnostic method for any disease until now. So is there anything appeared in USA, for example, or in Europe according to that?
So specifically, I am so focused on my current work, I do not keep up with what's going on data-wise in the greater healthcare industry. However, with regard to the original question, I think it's always possible to maintain privacy with data and still use that data for the general good of the population. For example, I can't think of it would be rare where we need to know a person's identification or a person's diagnosis or prognosis compared to their name and their other personal information when we use the data that we've collected on them to help us train our AIs. So if you get a chance to take a course on ethics and data science, everyone do it. I was fascinated by it when I took it finally. And I took it late in my career, frankly. But it's important to just always look for a way to maintain the privacy when it's necessary. And I think it's possible almost all the time.
Yeah, sure. So, uh, Next question.
I think there is no other question.
If I
Yeah.
may, I wanted to add something to an earlier question. I was just trying to
Yeah,
be
sure.
sensitive of our time, but um, sometimes you hear the question on an interview, what's your favorite algorithm? And my favorite answer to that question is the one that does the job the best. and you can't really know ahead of time which algorithm is going to do the best job for your need in that current modeling situation. But we can say that the one that is simplest and easiest to train and gives us adequate results, well, that's most likely the best model. But typically, you're going to automate your process of collecting data, periodically retraining on a host of different models, and uh, from time to time, the best model may change. Remember, we say it this way in the US, or at least in the courses I've taken that are usually from the US, there's no free lunch. You still have to see which models work best, but the evaluation methods between those models are typically very similar. The way you have to do feature engineering will change according to the type of model you're using, but there's basically a few related paths. We've got linear and logistic regression, but really those are the foundations to neural networks. And so we've got that whole path, but then decision trees and random forest and XGBoost and AGBoost, those are all related methods. Then we've got the new fancy thing, support vector machines, and I think that'll improve over time. We've got the Bayesian uh, method. All these different methods actually should be tried every time. And you just pick the best model that does the job, but that's also the simplest to understand and maintain. I hope that helps.
I
Yeah,
think
it does.
help a lot. That's for me.
So maybe one last question. What do you think about AI-based healthcare startups? Well, it sounds promising, but what are the challenges that are unique to this kind of startups?
Sorry. Again, there's some more missed.
There's a
We're talking
problem with
about the
some.
healthcare, the AI for healthcare startup.
Yeah. What are the problems that are unique to this startups?
I think the problems we are covered somehow, and the most important problem is, let's say, the data privacy is one of the problem, and how to from where to get the data, and also one of the problems we speak about is the trust and how to trust, who will trust this new startup, for example, that they are working on this field. But this is something that, for example, still there is, for example, something that we missed in the let's say in the Middle East, for at least. We are thinking about the data and the product for the hospital and private hospital, and this is the model. It will be great. Now, right now, when we are talking about the model related to the AI, there is a lot of other work behind it until it's ready to be a product. So the model is not a product. The model, it's the idea or the proof of concept. So this is also the most important challenge. That means before we are facing the community with our ideas, we have to be ready first with our infrastructure and with our software structures to know that this product, it will work. This is the first. This is the most important one, the most important challenge. And the other, we are forgetting about the university. Right now, there is a lot of private universities started on the Arab world, for example, or in the Middle East. And most of them, they are looking for real projects that can add real value. And it's not important to have this big company behind it. At the end, when we are talking about some model related to the AI for diagnostic model, and the university can, let's say, give the cover to the startup to collect the data, to maintain the data privacy, and just they have one request that, okay, we have some students or some researchers from our university, it will be part of this with you as a startup. So this is a great chance for all the startups that focusing on this AI on healthcare. Sorry. So I think for us in the Middle East, on North Africa, this is the good entrance for us that will help us to go to the market one day. So this is from my point of view because I'm living here. I know what we are facing. So for sure, there is something wider, something more important, maybe. Yes. Okay, I'm ready to hear it from Tom.
Oh, this is a great question, and it occurred to me. Well, if I was trying to decide if I was going to start an AI for healthcare startup, what would be my first task? And I would investigate, just like you said, Wraith. Can I get enough data? And the first hurdle to even get a hold of that data is the sources of that data are going to trust me to protect the privacy of the individuals. Now, really think about it. What kind of power for what kind of solutions would we have for healthcare if any one group could garnish that much trust and collect data from all over the world? Oh my! Now, just having that data at hand would get me excited about being involved in that effort because of the benefit to humanity and the wealth of data. Now we're not limited on the number of models that we can try, but getting to that point, to me, it's not even the 80-20 principle. It's like the 99.99% principle for this AI healthcare startup. To be able to accomplish that, I would invest a lot of money in them if they got to that point. But hopefully, the world will begin to see, wait a minute, we can depersonalize this data and make it available worldwide to everyone. Now that would be a huge achievement and benefit to mankind right there.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you. So I think that it's time. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for your precious time and this great presentation. It was awesome. So feel free to add any final thought or advice or whatever you want.
You go first, Wraith.
Okay. In fact, if I have any advice, first, I'm very glad to be here, and in fact, this is, from my point of view, this is the last event on July because July is what I was very busy on this. But I make a lot of events. But because it's in Algeria, I wasn't able to refuse. So this is the
Thank you
first.
so much.
The second thing, I would say in AI for healthcare, especially for healthcare, as we said, the trust is the important, but also we have a lot of chances there because maybe one of the sectors that early the full humanity understand the importance of the data for it, it's the healthcare. We have medical records starting from, as I told you, Hippocrates days, from the Greek days. So we have the data there. So it's for us, it's okay. It's important to, as we said, how to deal with this gold, how to mine it in the correct way. I agree on that. But the most important is to understand that when we are dealing with the healthcare, we have to add a real value. We have to solve real problems. It's not something just a kind of, okay, we want to play this game. No, this is very critical. But also, I think this is something very important because we found during the 5 months, the previous 5 months, that we need to focus on our healthcare sector. So the real value of the work, it's here, it's critical. It's not something for, let's say, for fun. No, it's important.
Thank you, Mr.
Yassine, before I answer, I
Yeah.
just want to ask, I'm suspecting there's a lot of students in the audience today. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are mostly students.
Okay. Well, here's the message I'd like to leave with them. You have chosen a brave new field. When I was first studying engineering, I was looking up to dead guys. What I mean is really smart dead guys like Michael Faraday and Maxwell and these cool former scientists, physicists, engineers that had come up with all this cool stuff. And now we're working in a discipline where we could go shake hands with the father of neural networks and the father of convolutional neural networks, and they're friends, and one was the student of the other. But understand, if you're afraid, if you get intimidated by how much there is to learn, you're not alone. Being a data scientist, growing as a data scientist, it's not a marathon, it's an ultrathon. It's this ultra long distance race. I just want you to relax, enjoy the journey, understand you're in a field that's going to keep exploding and you're going to need to keep learning. Learn to enjoy it. Be comfortable with not knowing everything. Be comfortable with having to review things you used to know really well because you haven't used them in 2 years. It happens. You get on these projects, you don't use everything. Just get comfortable with it and enjoy it, and know that you're in an exciting field, and you're never going to get to do everything in this field that you hope to, but it still can be very fun. And I'd say 95% of it is just being good in your production language. For myself, it's Python. But if I someday have to, get good at R for some reason, or get good at another language, I will strive to do that, because that's what's going to take you really far in our field, is being really skilled in your primary language. And there's starting to be some really good tool sets in other languages besides R and Python now. So I hope that helps. I know it's an intimidating field. Stay encouraged.
Yeah, maybe I can add one last question. If you can recommend some good resources to learn more about AI for healthcare.
Oh, I get that question a lot. In fact, it's too long an answer to do here, but on my blog, and I'm not trying to advertise for my blog, but if please, anyone out there, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be doing posts. When we do mentoring posts from my blog, we will post about it, and that'll be one of the things we cover. But here's my top advice regarding that. Start developing your own personalized learning plan. Let it include all the basics that you think are important right now, and then all the things you have a passion to learn. And then, but be open to revising it over the months and over the coming years, and just keep pecking away at it. And don't go deep on everything, you won't have time, but go deep on some of it that you care most about. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Don't expect to learn everything you need to know in school. You're still going to need to learn beyond your degree program.
Well, I think that's it. Thank you so much another time. It was great, and maybe we can see you another time in another live session.
It's an honor to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.